Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Outdated Entertainment Hour. I'm your Master of Ceremonies, Bob Fopp. On this edition, Bob Smith and Steve Gennarelli look at cartoons and animated features, a lot of things that have to do with cinema and television cartoons. As far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been a fine cartoon since 1928, Steamboat Willie featuring Mickey Mouse. I was only 41 at the time, and stop laughing at me. It's the Outdated Entertainment Hour. You in the 7th row. You cannot wear your popcorn box as a hat. You're obstructing the view of those behind you, Philistines. Don't pay no mind to what that miserable old fuss budget has to say, that Mr. Fopp. It's the Outdated Entertainment Hour. Hi again, it's the old magazine guy, Bob Smith. I'm going to be joined by podcaster Steve Gennarelli. We're going to look back at, each of us are taking 10 picks, cartoons, animated features, things like that, television cartoons, movies and cartoons, you name it. Just some animated stuff we're really fond of. This is not a greatest list. It's not a best of list. It's just fond memories of stuff we grew up watching or even discovered as adults. So hang on with us. Get out your Kenner Give-A-Show projector. I had one of those and I loved it with a passion. I had several because they kept breaking. Do you remember that little thing you crank and you show movies against your wall? I loved that toy. Oh my gosh. So hold on for a second. We're going to come right back with animation, cartoons, you name it. Some fun stuff that made us laugh or cry or think. See if you can agree with some of our choices. We'll be right back.
This is Joe Walsh. One thing I do when I'm not playing rock and roll is get on the air as an amateur radio operator. Also called ham radio, is a communication service provided by ordinary people just like you and me. We have a national emergency communication system in place 24/7, 365. Find out more about amateur radio at arrl.org/What is ham radio? See you on the air.
And we have an edition about, well, cartoons and animated things. This is as informal a show as we're going to do. We're not rating the greatest or the biggest grossing or the most popular. I asked a fellow animation fan, the great Steve Gennarelli, a fine podcaster in his own right, to come back on the show. And we're going to talk about, well, 10 each of just our favorite stuff, the stuff we've seen over the years. I don't care if it's new stuff, old stuff, in between stuff, animation, cartoons. I don't care if it's a commercial. There was some great animated, right, Steve? There's some great animated commercials out there. I remember Maypo particularly. I want my Maypo, the little cowboy kid, right?
Right.
How are you doing, first of all?
Oh, I'm doing well, and thanks for the invite. Yeah, when you told me at first we were going to do a show on animated stuff, it really took me back. I actually thought about, what shows did I watch on Saturday morning? And a lot of them weren't animated. I mean, there were shows like, what's that, HR Puffin stuff.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Shows like Lidsville. There are lots of crazy shows, but yeah, as far as animated, I do have quite a few on my list. Definitely a top 10, just in no particular order, but I'd love to talk to you about it.
Well, as you know, I'm the oldest podcaster in the podcast world. And when I was a little kid, we had ABC, CBS, and NBC affiliate. And the cartoons we watched were the old theatrical Paramount cartoons, and we had Bugs Bunny. 66, they had the Marvel superheroes on, which was an all-time favorite of mine. In the morning, they had a children's show before Captain Kangaroo that was one Three Stooges adventure and a couple of Popeyes.
Wow.
And the Popeyes were mixed between the ones that were made in 1960 by King Features and the old Paramount and the old classic Fleischer cartoons. that's what I grew up on. That's what I was weaned on. And when I was real little, we had Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear and the Hanna-Barbera encroachment into the syndicated world. I was thoroughly entertained. I loved TV when I was 4 or 5 years old. I really did. I loved my cartoons. Everybody did. And we didn't have a lot to choose from. We only had 3 stations, like I said. So it's a situation where you either watched the cartoon that was on or you didn't watch any cartoons.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
had some weird bad cartoons too. Like there was a show called Space Angel that nobody remembers. It was this animated thing where there was static, you saw a static head, but the lips were moving and they looked like real human lips.
Really?
It was really strange. Space Angel. I wonder if anybody else that there remembers Space Angel, but I remember it fondly because, like I said, it was a wee tadpole. And we watched that stuff. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had shows like Miguel Gorilla was a popular one, another Hanna-Barbera, Top Cat. I mean, there's so many, but one thing that you just said that kind of took me back was like adults with the new fall TV season and the TV guide would come out and there'd be all these new shows on the networks. I mean, for us kids, there was this one day every fall in September, Saturday morning, you put your network on with CBS, ABC, NBC. There'd be a whole bunch of new cartoons and new shows for kids, and that was like winning the lotto. You know, when you're a kid and you're watching from 8 a.m. to maybe 11 or noon, and it's like all these new cartoons just explode on the scene. And I mean, I can remember all those shows that were on CBS, cartoons all the way up until early afternoon. And I think they'd had, and this is around 1971, they started having reruns of the Monkees on around 1:30 in the afternoon. Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, which was a perennial favorite. Shows for the children would enjoy.
there you go. Well, I want everyone out there listening to know that we are recording at a time we've never recorded before. It's around 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And if you go back decades to when Steve and I were children, in a half hour, the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour was going to come on. So we are talking all these years later at a time when cartoons would have been on. And I find this to be, Steve, you picked this time, but I found it to be almost artistic that we are talking about cartoons during network cartoon time. So I think it's great.
It's funny how, like, so many of us that started with cartoons, again, I don't know how this happened, but after we maybe outgrew them, we found out that wrestling was on Saturday mornings, and we went with that. I don't know, but
It's
seemed
exactly the way I went. I was 12 when I discovered wrestling and kind of weaning yourself off cartoon, to all that kid stuff.
yeah.
Isn't it horrible that all of us want to grow up so fast? And then when you're all grown and you get older and the grays start hitting you, you pine for the days when it was cartoons and ice cream once a week, and, the stuff you did when you were children.
You're remembering at a time where there was no mortgage, no worries, no problems. Everything was easy. So I can see why we look back so fondly at those days.
Well, our household was, oh God, in a semi-rural area, and nobody was making a ton of money. I mean, we'll put it that way where I lived.
Sure.
And but my dad was a hardworking guy. We did the best with what we had. I mean, we had a garage, we had a secondhand rotating TV antenna on that garage, and there was a control we used to have, and we could turn it.
Mhm.
So I could get Unica, I would get New York City once in a while. If you botzed around with it long enough, you could find something to watch. So, but there were great memories. Why do I pine for the days when we only had 3 channels? Now I have every channel in the world.
And you still can't find anything.
Listen, I am a big nostalgia viewer. That's why I'm doing the show. I am Mr. Roku, Mr.
Friendly or
Rerun channel.
whatever.
The Roku channel itself is fantastic for finding classic stuff.
Right.
And you're right, the Friendly Network, which is great because there's a DVR on it. I found myself watching F Troop the other day and laughing at it out loud. I mean, I haven't looked at F Troop probably in 40 years.
That used to be the go-to when the Yankees were having a rain delay. Let's put F Troop on or Get Smart.
That's right. I remember Get Smart. Channel 11, right?
It's right.
All right, we'll get started. Now, I just want to tell everybody, again, this isn't the best. We're not looking at the best. This is personal favorites. It could be any kind of animation in any kind of media, film, television. Even if you saw something online, you can put it here. So, Steve, since you are a special guest and we're thankful for your presence here, just tell us something you liked back in the day.
Well, this is really going to throw you for a curve. But when you said to me it could be anything, anything of any type, any description, I'm going to go to the 1983 film, which I know you've seen probably a few times, Strange Brew, the Bob and Doug McKenzie film, spinoff of SCTV. And if you remember that movie, in one of the opening scenes of the movie, they cut into this animated thing. It was like a 30 or 40 second part of the movie, but it had a short little animation, and they acted like this is the rest of the movie, and it was only for 40 minutes, but it was them being animated. It was really hilarious. And then they went on with the rest of the movie after that. But do you remember that little excursion into animation for the McKenzie brothers?
I absolutely don't. And here's the funny part. Here's the funny part. I have seen Strange Brew once when it hit cable, when it was basically a new film at that point. And I was the biggest SCTV fan. And I have a pair in my den of McFarlane Toys Bob and Doug McKenzie action figures, complete with the set that they had on the Great White
love it.
North and
I love it.
a bunch of beers and back bacon, everything. And it's still sitting in its original package. I was figuring, well, maybe someday there'll be a collector for this. Well, I've looked it up, and well, there isn't. But but yeah, I'm proud to have those action figures. So yeah, I mean, I have forgotten that scene entirely. In fact, now you make me want to go back and look at the film a second time.
That was like a laugh out loud moment in this movie. I think the movie is kind of forgettable. It was really, that was a highlight of the movie. Anything on your list that you'd like to kick it off with?
Well, my list is all over the map, considering time frames and everything else. I'm going to go back to relatively recently for these shows anyway, 1982. And it's an animated film called The Snowman, which was narrated by David Bowie and made by a filmmaker named Raymond Briggs. It was animated for British TV, but it's filtered its way into the media here in the United States. It's a simple tale of a snowman brought to life and how the snowman takes a little boy on an adventure he'll never forget. It's silent animation with a musical background, lavish music, actually. It has an ending that many consider beautiful, but to me, it's sort of a tragedy. The snowman, this magical snowman out in the backyard, takes him into a mystical land full of other snow people, and they're all dancing and singing and having a wonderful time. And then when he gets up the next morning, it was hot, the sun was out, and the snowman had melted.
Right.
So it's sort of it's beautiful, but it's sort of a tragedy too. You know how children are. The showing was a huge success in England. It was nominated for Best Animated Short Film at the 55th Academy Awards and won a BAFTA TV award. It's available on DVD and you can catch it on YouTube for free. Beautiful little movie.
I will look that up. That's one I've never seen. So
It's good old fashioned 2D, right? Regular hand drawn, classic style animation, but not goofy. All the characters look very realistic and it's very sweet.
no,
It's just tugs my heart.
So I'll give you another cut here. This is going to be kind of a deep cut. This is a show that used to be rerun a lot on Channel 5 in New York, that WNEW. And it was a show called Voyage to the Center of the Earth. So it was kind of an action adventure sci-fi cartoon. And so it was basically about this group of kind of like a little family or troop of characters who something's happening and there's almost like a crisis in the Earth, and then they have to travel to the center of the Earth to stay alive. And it's like an action adventure type thing. And there's a couple of villains in there. But what was memorable about this show, and they only did 17 episodes, is that Ted Knight, famous from the Mary Tyler Moore Show and Caddyshack, he did most of the voices. And Pat Harrington, who would later be well known as Schneider on One Day at a Time, he also did a lot of the voices. So, but that was a popular show that reran a lot in the 70s on Channel 5 in New York.
Pat Harrington did voices a lot for cartoons. I believe, was the inspector that was made by the people who made the Pink Panther cartoons.
Oh, okay.
And also the other person you mentioned was who again?
Ted Knight from the Mary Tyler Moore.
And if you remember, Ted Knight was the narrator for the Superman cartoons of the 1970s.
Very good.
Did you know that?
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, you if you watch the ones, I think they were Filmation made these DC character, and they had a Justice League series too. The narrator was very obviously Ted Knight. When you hear it, you'll hear Ted Baxter.
Right.
So,
right.
so small world. All right, you want another one from me?
Please.
In the 1930s, Popeye was it. I don't even think Bugs Bunny was as hot as Popeye was in the '30s. Those beautiful Fleischer cartoons, they decided to make 2 long-form color editions of Popeye that weren't like the regular time of a cartoon, they were longer, 17 or 20 minutes and stuff like that. Now, there were 2 of them, the other one gets all the hype, but my favorite is called Popeye the Sailor Meets Alibaba and His 40 Thieves.
Really?
Has some of the most beautiful animation for its era. It's funny, it's action-packed, Bluto is Abu Hassan, and there's great songs in it, great jokes. It was produced by the legendary Fleischer Studios, distributed by Paramount, and to me, this cartoon's the high point of the early Popeye run. The short also used a form of 3D animation, which gave some scenes almost uncanny realism. Like, there's a scene where Popeye's walking through a cave
Wow.
where Alibaba and his henchmen are, and it's filled with treasures,
Wow.
and it's beautiful. I mean, it's some of the best animation you will ever see. Very realistic all around Popeye. He's walking in the cave looking for Alibaba. So, it's funny and action-packed, and the rest of Fleischer's early Popeye shorts, the first 2 years, remain some of the best theatrical cartoons ever made. But I will say this about the Popeye run. When the war started, they kinda changed the animation, and it wasn't as funny, and they did a lot of, like, propaganda cartoons. Not that there's anything wrong with that, everybody was rooting for the US at that point.
Sure.
But Popeye, the cartoons were never the same, and then when they went to Paramount, they really changed. They were all color, and it was the same thing all over. "Help, help, Popeye, Bluto's here," whatever. So, they were all the same. It was one joke at that point. But the early Fleischers and Popeye the Sailor Meets Alibaba and His 40 Thieves, you don't have to go far to find it. It's all over YouTube. You'll find it for
Right.
free all over the streaming world. So it's beautiful. If you've never seen it, it's funny, it's fun, and I know you'll enjoy it. It's great. Have
No,
you seen it?
I've seen the ones that were on, TV in the '70s, not the one you're describing, so that definitely would be worth taking the time to locate and find. Now this one kind of encompassed a lot of material. It was under the heading of The Underdog Show, but with The Underdog Show, you had things like Tennessee Tuxedo, and you
Mhm.
had Commander McBragg, and you had lots of, Go Go Gophers. I mean, you had a lot of, extra entertainment there, and I really enjoyed those shows. I mean, those were ones that were seemed to always be on in our house. My older brother, really enjoyed them, and I know when they eventually came out on VHS and DVD and Blu-ray, he got those. So,
When I was growing up in the Capital District of New York State, Tennessee Tuxedo was on all the time. Tennessee Tuxedo and His Tales, I believe it was called,
mhm,
all by itself. I know he was a sub-character one, but they gave him his own show after a
right,
while.
that's right.
And, oh, yeah, I love those. Mr. Whoopi and the Wayback Machine or whatever the heck it was, and,
Yeah, Chumley.
uh, oh, Gee, Tennessee. It was like many people think I resemble Chumley in many ways, but
Hell no, no, hell
in
no.
in any event, yeah, they were funny. Don Adams, the voice of,
Yeah.
Tennessee Tuxedo.
Phineas J. Whoopi, you're the greatest.
That's right. And you know what? It was almost educational, those little things where he would describe how something worked. Phineas J. "Oh, we'll use this to foil the bad guys. Come on, Chumley. Gee, Tennessee. Stop it. Don't get me started." I
And
grew up on that stuff, man.
years ago, this is like about probably like 30 years ago, there was this rumor in the Hollywood trade papers that supposedly Arnold Schwarzenegger had bought the rights to Commander McBragg. There was going to be a big screen movie version of Commander McBragg starring him. And I thought that would have been hilarious, just a big screen movie version with this guy who acts like he knows everything, has done everything, but he's really just a complete fool. So that would be a great one to watch. But
I can't even imagine that. Holy smokes. All right. My next one is relatively recent. And I know you've never heard of this, Steve. I just ran into it by accident. It's fantastic. Can you believe that Pixar made a 2D animation short, 9 minutes long?
well,
Not the computer generated stuff you're used to, a hand drawn animation short.
no, I didn't know about it.
It came out in 2019 and it's called Kitbull, Kitbull. It's an animated buddy drama short and viral video written by Rosanna Sullivan, produced by Pixar Animation, and it's good old-fashioned 2D. It's a wordless drama that turns out both beautifully animated and deeply moving. Seriously. The story's about animals in San Francisco, a homeless stray cat and a dog who's involved in dog fighting, believe it or not. How they tenuously met, and their eventual friendship ends up being the first of two happenstances that result in the happiest and most realistic ending possible. It's fantastic. The short was nominated for an Oscar, Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film at the 92nd Academy Awards. Among the critical plaudits, the Bridget Sharkey of the Arizona Daily Star called it, quote, an incredible piece of film. And I agree. It's an incredible achievement. A traditional piece of animation that proves, at least to me, that handmade drawings, they beat digital animation every time. They just do. The old school, instead of this, everything looks the same now when you go see an animated film.
Right.
Give me the old stuff. Now, if you want to see this wonderful little movie, you can find it on Disney Plus, as well as on YouTube, but be sure to find the version that's 8 minutes and 58 seconds long. I see it's available in certain ways, so it's free to watch on YouTube. It's great. It's great. Again, another sweet tale, realism, and there's a little moral theme in it with the dog fighting and all that stuff, but how this dog and cat got together, and the ending is magic. No, I'm not even gonna tell you what it is. I don't wanna say what it is. The ending will stick with you.
Definitely, you definitely hooked me into this one. I will definitely look that up.
Yes, Kit Bull. In fact, I'm hooked on it. I keep watching it like once every few days. It's great. It's just great. All right, Steve, you're up.
This one doesn't take you really too far back in time, but I know you remember it immediately. It was on CBS for the longest time, the Fat Albert Show. And that show was actually pretty hilarious in its day. I mean, just the depiction of kids in an urban setting and mush mouth, marble mouth. He couldn't understand what he had to say, but Fat Albert went through lots of persecution because of his weight, obviously. But it was a fun show that had a little lesson thrown in there. I mean, we don't need to talk about Bill Cosby, and all his sins, but at the time, it was a very enjoyable show, a fun show for kids.
I will say I watched it religiously back when it was new, and I remember even the music they used to play interstationally. I remember the da 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 da. It had such it had a vibe to it. Because it was really based on friends that Cosby had, I think, when he was a kid. Those characters were described pretty much on one of his old comedy albums. People don't remember Bill Cosby in the 60s sold millions of comedy albums.
Yeah.
He was a huge recording artist in that regard. That's really got his career going, I think, with those records. And yeah, I cannot say that's great animation. They reused a lot of forms a lot.
Right.
Like the scene where they're all walking on the street together was the same thing every time.
Yeah,
But you know what? Everybody laughed at it, and everybody had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, you're right. We won't talk about Bill Cosby's life, but this was earlier on, and it's a classic. It's got to be on somewhere. Do you know if it's on anywhere?
If it's not, it's probably because of Bill Cosby and his reputation and all that. But for those that have copies or have it on tape or whatever, definitely worth going back to. I'm sure it's got to be on YouTube somewhere if you wanted to look it up. But
I would certainly think so, yeah.
But it definitely, in its time, was one of the most memorable cartoons. It definitely stood out because it wasn't so cookie cutter like all the rest.
I am going to admit my list is somewhat Warner Brothers centric.
Okay.
I love Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies.
Yeah.
And there were so many classics, and they've won so many awards. But my choices aren't the usual. Like, if you go back at animation, I think they did a review of animation and ratings, and What's Opera Doc was called the best cartoon of all time and all this other stuff. Mine isn't like that. I go for the laughs. And one of my favorite cartoons from Warner Brothers, a no dialogue Merry Melody short from 1955, One Froggy Evening. You know this one. It's no dialogue except for the singing frog, who focuses on a construction worker who discovers a singing and dancing frog in a box. And the man's failed attempts at making the frog sing in an opera house and dreams of cashing in. It's just one of so many classic Chuck Jones, Warner Brothers triumphs. In 2003, the United States Library of Congress bestowed the honor of putting it in preservation for the National Film Registry, calling it culturally, historically, aesthetically significant. for the longest time, Warner Brothers used that frog as kind of like an unofficial mascot at the
Right.
beginning of Warner Brothers movies.
That's right.
So yeah, it's a funny cartoon. It's perfect. It's just 8 minutes of fun.
Now, here's one I'm going to hit you with, and this is kind of the gold standard, I think, of cartoons on TV. Collection of Charlie Brown Peanuts holiday shows. The Charlie Brown Christmas, the Charlie Brown Halloween, the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. To me, those are the best. I mean, they still bring them out, and I think they might be on Apple TV now, but they're really, really good classic shows with great, great music in the background, and they've held up so well since the 1960s.
The Charlie Brown Christmas, it kind of was on the networks for years at Christmas time, and then it wasn't. Then it was on cable stations for years, and then it disappeared. But in recent years, it showed up on Apple TV, Apple Plus, whatever they call it. We decided to sit down and watch it for the first time in years, and we're sitting there watching this thing. At the end, it's all the Peanuts characters singing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," and I look over. My wife is crying, and I wiped the tear from my eye too. There's why we took it so emotionally. I think it just took us back. It took us back. We were young when that show was first on, and it's beautiful.
It's just so pure, it really captures the feeling of goodwill to your fellow man, goodwill to your neighbors, and that sense of sharing and closeness, and it's just so authentic.
It's fantastic. Again, it's one of those ones that I don't think, I know they had a lot of holiday specials. They did Thanksgiving and stuff like that.
Sure.
But to me, the first will always be my favorite. That's a great pick because it's like the Peanuts are indelible now. Some newspaper chains are still running the old Peanut strips. You can
Okay.
rerun them over and over because they're timeless. They don't talk about prescient current things for the most part. Although you're a Yankee fan, right before the strip ended, Charlie Brown was sitting there looking like Joe Torre managing.
Really?
With the bags under his eyes and that
Yeah.
stern face that Torre
Yeah.
used to have.
Right.
And they did a Joe Torre parody in Peanuts.
I didn't know that.
Oh, look that one up. That's a classic. All right. So I guess it's my turn. More Warner Brothers hijinks for you. Book review from 1946. Bob Clampett, the famous director. Characters in famous books come to life. It's a classic cartoon featuring Daffy Duck, Little Red Riding Hood, Harry James, Frank Sinatra, Benny Goodman, Tommy Dorsey, Gene Krupa, Jimmy Durante, and the Big Bad Wolf, all set to music of the era. It's laugh a minute. It's almost like a sketch comedy to the end where Daffy and Little Red Riding Hood have to defeat the Big Bad Wolf, right?
Okay.
But it's all musical. It's a riot. It's a real period piece, and it's manic. We always look at this cartoon and go, man, what drugs were they on? The animation was really wild and florid, and it's just a laugh a second. Book review, Warner Brothers at its best.
Kind of reminded me now. This isn't really animation. It's more like that kind of like Davy and Goliath type with moving things around. Do you remember that classic movie Mad Monster Party?
I remember it being in the theaters when I was a little kid. Yeah.
Would you consider that animation?
Yes.
Okay. I thought
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought it was a hell of a movie for kids. It kind of combined some scary elements, monsters and the scientist in the laboratory, Boris Karloff, all that cool stuff, but in a comedy setting as well. And it was just a kind of a rollicking, good time movie. And they would show it on WOR in New York, typically when they would show King Kong or Mighty Joe Thunder or Mighty Joe Young, and then they would put that in as well.
This next one really hits me like a sledgehammer. 1962. It was originally on TV. It later ended up in theaters. Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. I have talked about this on the show before. I mean, even when it's 1960s looking like kind of slapdash animation, it's a musical TV special that featured Magoo as Ebenezer Scrooge on Broadway. He's acting on Broadway. It's an amazing accomplishment, not so much for the animation, but for its heartwarming story. And it was produced, oh my gosh, it's got a musical score from Broadway greats like Jewel Stein with lyrics by Bob Merrill and stuff like that. And it's an orchestral score and with original songs that'll stick in your head. It's beautiful in its simplicity. It's really heart-rendering, and I own it on DVD. I had to buy this. I had to own this. I could barely watch it. I get emotional. It's like the first thing I ever remember seeing on television ever. I was probably 3.5 or 4 years old when it debuted. It's in my heart.
No, I understand. When I even think about some of those shows from my youth, even Rudolph, the classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty, watching those at Christmas time, I get teary eyed. I get all choked up. Sometimes I don't even watch them because I don't want to get those feelings.
Well, that's the thing. There's something about reliving a lot of old things that you watched when you were kids. It just you remember the vibe you had back then, what your life was like back then. You said it yourself. Things were simpler.
Yes.
Things were calmer somehow.
Yes.
And now we've all grown up and went through the trials and tribulations of adulthood, that when you go and revisit those times, it's jarring. It's beautiful, but jarring because it's like you realize, well, those days will never come around again.
Right. That's true. Very true.
All right, is everybody depressed out there? Is this good? Is this
Well,
good? All right.
well, I'm going to mention a program that will definitely lift you out of the gutter.
All right.
Now this debuted on MTV probably 30 plus years ago, but let's give a shout out to the beloved Beavis and Butthead show.
Oh, gosh.
You combined not only a fun animated show, but they were also making fun of the videos that were on MTV, and they were making snarky comments about those videos, and that was a lot of fun.
You know what? I never watched it. I knew about it. I knew the cultural impact it had. You see people walking down the street with Beavis and Butthead T-shirts on and things like
Right,
that.
all the time.
Two seasons ago, Saturday Night Live did a sketch where two audience members on a talk show looked like Beavis and Butthead, and they couldn't keep the cast members from cracking up. They looked so funny.
Right,
It
right.
was really amazing. So, yeah, cultural impact time. I mean, it really was a humongous hit.
Now you can see them on Paramount because they own MTV, and they've done recent shows in recent years. They've gone back and made new episodes. At first they were just the ones from the '90s, and now there's a whole couple more seasons they've done in recent years. And I know the guy, the creator of the show, he's been on Howard Stern. He's been all over the place, and he's a very creative guy. I think he also did King of the Hill and subsequent other shows that have been huge successes too. But it was really a guilty pleasure show I watched. I remember even my mom watched it and laughed. She thought it was so bizarre.
One thing I know about Beavis and Butthead, even though I never watched it, part of its vernacular made it into the verbal lexicon of American speech. I won't mention the words, but I can think of at least 3 different things that people say all the time now based on what they said on the show. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could say them. I just think it's just that borderline, should I say this or not type of expressions. Now let's go way back in time, since it's outdated here. 1959 was the TV debut of The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, was the actual name of the show. But I want to talk about something that was inserted in that show. The very first cartoon of Sherman and Mr. Peabody.
Yeah.
The very first one. They were given their own cartoons on the Bullwinkle show, right? Originally on ABC. And they were even in prime time for a minute or two. This is the story of how Mr. Peabody adopted Sherman and his process in adopting his little boy, as opposed to a little boy adopting a dog. That's right, the dog adopted a boy. But remember, Peabody is the genius who invented the Wayback Machine, so he's no regular dog. I mean, the government was counting on him to do things and give them information. You know what? It's that wacky TV-style animation, but it's still beautiful. And the first few seasons of Rocky remains one of the funniest cartoon shows ever produced for TV. It's adult humor.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. The Rocky Bullwinkle show was adult humor. The Fractured Fairy Tales, which is another thing I really would put on the list. But that first episode with the greatest last line of the original Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Check it out. Oh my gosh, it's great. It's great.
They had so many talented people like Edward Everett Horton. And of course, you can't forget Boris Badenoff. Was that his name?
Right. And Natasha.
And Natasha, yes.
But you know, the narrator of the Bullwinkle cartoons was William Conrad, who was Cannon on television.
That's right.
So a lot of the voices you hear there were famous actors too. That's what gave those shows the look. They know how to pick out the voice actors on those early shows. They still do.
When you told me you were going to do this topic today, I went back and did a little research, and I was amazed that it was 1959. But you're right. That show was so profound because it was one of those ones that never came off the air. I mean, it was on in the 70s, it was on in the 80s, it was on in the 90s. I mean, it just migrated over to cable when cable became the thing. It's on the Mount Rushmore of TV animation.
Well, I have to say that about the variations of the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour too that we mentioned before. That thing was on for decades.
Yes.
Decades.
Yeah.
And they kept bringing it back, kept canceling it and bringing it back. It's been lauded as one of the longest running TV shows of all time. And not as much as like say 60 minutes, but it's close.
Yes, very, very true. In the mid 1970s, actually the early 70s, when the Star Trek TV show was so popular, but it had been canceled, they decided to bring it back as an animated show in 1973, and it ran for 2 years on NBC. It definitely helped keep the name Star Trek alive, and eventually, after the success of Star Wars, they started making Star Trek movies, and everything worked out okay. But for a couple of years, they had new Star Trek episodes on NBC, a half-hour format with most of the cast involved. And it was kind of, I mean, the animation wasn't great, but it was kind of cool hearing those sounds of the Enterprise bridge and hearing Shatner and Nimoy, DeForest Kelley's voice.
I think it was Filmation.
It was.
I think it was the same people that did the Superman, Batman stuff,
It was.
Aquaman stuff,
Yeah.
and they kind of specialized in human being cartoons as opposed to funny animal cartoons. I totally forgot about the Star Trek animated series. I just did. I just have no idea.
I mean, there's some good episodes in there. I mean, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, but I think it deserves a mention just for keeping the franchise alive in one way or another.
Well, I'm going to go back in time again because we're outdated. The first season of Huckleberry Hound, and I think it's groundbreaking, even though it's the beginning of that really cheap TV style animation that we all got used to because that's what they were feeding us back then. But still, this was the second of Hanna-Barbera's animated TV cartoon series. The first one was Rough and Ready, that not many people remember in this day and age. But Huckleberry Hound was the first animated cartoon series ever to win an Emmy in 1960.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I pointed the 1958 through 1961 original Huckleberry Hound series is an important part of animation history. The show was, first of all, the show was on for decades. They keep rerunning it. And it forged the path for not only Hanna-Barbera's cartoon dominance through the 80s, but put the made-for-TV cartoon concept on the map as for programmers, as opposed to showing old theatrical cartoons
Right.
and Three Stooges.
Right.
That's what they were showing kids. It was just old, grainy prints. And we need to pay tribute to Dawes Butler, the voice of Huckleberry Hound, who also provided the voices of Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, Spike the Bulldog, Snagglepuss, Quick Draw McGraw, and Baba Louie, Augie Doggy, Loopy the Loop, Wally Gator, Snooper and Blabber, Dixie and Mr. Jinx, Hokey Wolf, Lippy the Lion, Elroy Jetson, Lambsy, Peter Ponimus, the Funky Phantom, and Hare Bears. This was all the same guy, Dawes Butler. Nobody talks about him. He is to TV animation what Mel Blanc was to the early Warner Brothers cartoons.
Yes, Snagglepuss was the best. There's no doubt about it.
And a lot of people love Snagglepuss, yeah. Also, Dawes Butler also was, do you know he was the voices of Snap, Crackle, and Pop, Rice Krispies?
I did not know that, no.
Yeah, he was also did Wimpy for a while, one of the TV Popeye cartoons. So I want to throw, I don't know, my gratitude to Dawes Butler, who you would see his name. I don't know what he looks like. I've never seen him for real. But what a career. And again, if it wasn't for Huckleberry Hound and its success, there wouldn't, it was the keynote for setting the stage for all the Saturday morning cartoons we ever saw, all the syndicated cartoons we ever saw, all made specifically for TV.
Right.
Whether they were the greatest cartoons that you watched or not is beside the point. The point is it was the first, it was the trendsetter, and I consider a huge historical achievement.
Well, following up on that theme of first and the shows that probably followed that one, two very well-known shows, the Flintstones and the Jetsons. And the Flintstones, a lot of people have said it's just a ripoff of the Honeymooners. I do have a couple of fond memories from the Flintstones. Yeah, the animation wasn't that good, But I thought that the Great Gazoo was a great character, the little guy that flew in.
Let me chime in here. I thought the first couple of seasons of the Flintstones, when it was that kind of ragged animation, were the funniest. I love those
Really?
cartoons. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I know that they kind of streamlined the animation after a while, and the jokes were funny to, the little animals that used to have to do the menial jobs in the
Yeah,
Stone
right,
Age and all this stuff. No,
right.
I just I really enjoyed the best those early sloppy Flintstones. I really do.
And Alan Reed that had the voice of Fred Flintstone, he was a great voice. I know years later I think he passed away in the mid-70s, and they had another voice for Fred, and it's never the same. But yeah, I mean, there were some very memorable episodes of that. Yeah, I mean, we have to acknowledge the Flintstones since we're doing this fine program about the way back years of animation.
I agree, and I will say one thing, if you don't laugh when I say it, I'll be shocked. Fred Flintstone bowling. She's not laughing.
Right.
I thought you were just thinking the little tippy toe that he used there you go, I got him
Right.
to laugh, okay. All right.
Right.
The little noise they play.
That's cool. That was cool.
All right, I try. All right, my last 2 are just for me. This is just stuff I love. More Warner Brothers, I'm sorry, I am a child of the Warner Brothers theatrical cartoons. 1943, Waikiki Rabbit. It's the one where Bugs is on an island. Who shows up on the island but 2 guys in a raft who are starving on the raft, and they look at each other like they're hot dogs and hamburgers, and
Oh, yeah.
they float ashore on the island, and it's the 2 guys, they're trying to catch Bugs to eat them, to be honest with you, and Bugs outsmarts them in the end in a hilarious finale. It's beautiful. It's another Chuck Jones cartoon. Amazing artistic backgrounds that get thrown in on this one. So it's not just laughs. There's a real art to it. Oh, what a classic. And it's public domain. You can see this thing anywhere. Waikiki Rabbit. Holy smokes. I love it. I can watch it right now.
That's awesome. Thanks for the tip on that. I'll have to check that out. Very popular show in the 90s. I would watch this. I'd go out of my way to watch it. I never really liked it, but I went out of my way to find it. Do you remember the short-lived popularity of Ren and Stimpy in the 90s?
Oh, you know what? I could go on for an hour about Ren and Stimpy because the original first, well, if you look into the way, I hope I don't want to jump your thing here, but I was a huge fan of Ren and Stimpy when it came out at first. Oh God, was it funny? It was like a combination of you could see all the cartoon influences. John
Right.
Crickfalusi, who was
John
the
K.
creator.
Mhm.
John K. I'm going to call him that because I can't pronounce his name. No, seriously, it was a spectacularly funny, not really appropriate for children show that was on Nickelodeon anyway,
Yeah.
and he ruined his own creation. I would only recommend the first couple of seasons of Ren
Right.
and Stimpy. The rest of
Right.
it went right in a dumper. I think the guy got a big head. He later on got in trouble for reasons I'm not even going to talk about. But those original, I'd say 15 to 20 episodes are hilarious, trend-setting, because now a lot of shows are animated the way that show was. Well, that funky animation style and whatnot. Oh, no, it was brilliant, funny, but they killed their own animal. I mean, their own pet. They killed their own pet. It's like, I can't believe how fast it went to dumper.
Well, I think in that era, just I think he was probably under a lot of stress with the production. The whole thing, it was just difficult, I think, for him. But he did create something really magical, and like you said, it only lasted a brief amount of time. So
Well, my considered opinion, he was his own worst enemy, and there is a film documentary about the making of Ren and Stimpy that you should see if you haven't checked it out. I don't remember the title as we sit here and talk about it, but he was his own
Mhm.
problem. He really was. And if you know that he got fired by Nickelodeon somewhere after the first couple of seasons or something because he couldn't deliver episodes on time.
Right.
So Nickelodeon owned it, and they continued to make cartoons without Crickfalusi in them, and the other animators just kind of took over and kept the series going for a while, but they were never quite as inspired, funny, funkily animated, great music. Ren and Stimpy is the great unfulfilled promise, but that first season or so, holy smokes, was it funny. I mean, it was really a great cartoon.
Absolutely.
I hope you agree with my summation there.
No,
Because
I
if
do.
you try to and did you ever hear something called Ren and Stimpy's Adult Party Cartoon?
No.
It was on Spike TV. They hired him John Kay to come back and create new adult-oriented ones.
Yeah.
They are the worst cartoons you will ever watch. Don't even look for them. They're horrible. You can get them, like, all this stuff on DVD. But, Ren and Stimpy's adult party cartoon series, they only made a half dozen of them or so.
Mhm.
They're so beyond awful, you can't believe this. The same guy who created it came up with this mess.
Yeah.
Vulgar,
Yeah.
unfunny, stupid, ugly animation. I mean, seriously, he fell right off the cliff.
That's awful. That's terrible.
Yeah. So you never heard of that, huh?
No.
Yeah. Good thing for you. If you saw your whole memory would be besmirched. I'm
Now
telling you, it's that bad.
now, did you have another one for me?
I have one more, another Warner Brothers. The Big Snooze from 1946. Elmer Fudd is sick of Bugs Bunny getting the best of him every time. So he rips up his Warner Brothers contract and storms off. And Bugs is going, "You can't do this to me. We're a team," right? And all this other stuff. So Bugs tries to convince Elmer to stay in some of the craziest sequences of animation that any Warner Brothers cartoon ever came up with, mainly because Bob Clampett, the director, was leaving Warner Brothers at the time. And I think the fact that Elmer was ripping up his contract, which is exactly what Bob Clampett did in real
Right.
life.
Right.
And he didn't even finish the cartoon. Another animator had to come in and finish it. The end result is this funky psychedelic for 1946. Hilarious. I mean, Elmer ends up in drag, and it's hilarious. I can't even. It's so funny. And Bugs is happy in the end. It's like 9 minutes of pure anarchy. It's one of the greatest, funniest cartoons I've ever seen. And wow. Again, it's called The Big Snooze. And you can find a lot of the Warner Brothers cartoons. If you can't find them, they're kind of all over the streaming world now. On the
Mhm.
Friendly Network, there's a Bugs Bunny show. There's also, I think Pluto or somebody else, even the Roku channel, also has classic Warner Brothers cartoons now.
Okay.
So if you've lost track of where to find them, just type in Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is a series name now, and you can find them in a lot of different places. I'm a Warner's guy. I hated Disney. One time, Robert Smigel did a sketch, an animated sketch with Mickey Mouse in it on Saturday Night Live.
Mhm.
And he's going, "I have to continue making the funny cartoons you kids love." And a little girl points at Mickey and goes, "You're supposed to be funny?" Yeah, there was nothing unfunnier than Disney cartoons. Most lists like this would put Fantasia in,
Yeah.
or this isn't what this particular show about. This is Steve and I bringing back our fond memories, right, Steve? And
That's right.
how much fun is it to talk about this kind of thing?
No, it's awesome, and I have one final mention that I want to put in here, and this is really for both of us because this is one of your favorites too. Going back to 1966, 67, the Marvel comics come to TV. Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Submariner was probably in there. I mean, they're all there, and I saw on YouTube yesterday. I went back and watched a bunch of them. They really kind of capture the flavor of Marvel comics in the '60s, and the animation. The characters look the way they're supposed to look. They look like the Marvel comics that we're familiar with. And the way the storylines are written, they're deadly serious. There's no tongue in cheek. There's no humor. It's all life and death, struggle, action, adventure. So it's really well done.
Well, the reason that the things look so much like comic books is they actually lifted panels from the. So
Hmm.
you would see actual Jack Kirby artwork on TV, which
Yes,
I found to be great because I was a huge comics kid.
yes, same
You know,
here.
we did a
Same
show
here.
on comics here. And yeah, it was limited animation like you've never seen. Some of them were really limited. Others, they would surprise you with how good the animation was. But overall, it had a great theme to it. And again, you had your 5 superstar characters from the Marvel comic: Captain America, Thor, Submariner, Hulk.
Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man was not one of the Spider-Man wasn't. It was, let's see, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, Submariner,
Iron Man.
Iron Man. That's it. That's it. You got it. See, you had it anyway. You just said the wrong
Sure.
one. But because Spider-Man was, so Spider-Man was like a year or 2 after on ABC.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Done by Grant Trey Lawrence Animation, the same people who did that series, the Marvel Superheroes. I love that show. And the fact that you can't find it on disc anywhere just bugs me. You can't even find a streaming service that carries it. They have kind of buried it. Disney owns it, and
Mhm.
they've kind of buried it. I think maybe they think it's too archaic of animation to re-release. But the voices were great. The narrator was fantastic. John Vernon, who was Dean Wormer in Animal House, was Iron Man's voice. You know, you can
Mhm.
pick out little voices you recognize, and they were very true to the original comics tales
Oh,
because
yes.
they lifted them from the comics. I always felt like talk to Brian R. Solomon about this. If the show was called Marvel Comics for television, it would be held in higher esteem because that's exactly what it was. You were seeing a comic book on your screen. And I remember the lavish music they had in the
Yeah.
background, so
Oh, yeah.
and the themes are the greatest. The Hulk song, the Iron Man song.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think Howard Stern used to sing the Iron Man show on his thing. No, you know who it was? It was John Bon Jovi was on the Stern show, and he sang the Iron Man song. Tony
Uh,
Stark makes you feel. So, the thing definitely had, its fans, including me. I agree with you. I went and bought on some DVD site a package of every episode.
Mhm.
Somebody was selling they had it on in their area, and they recorded them all off television. You'll be watching, let's say, a Submariner cartoon, it'll say, Channel 47, Dubuque or something,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
right,
"Well,
right.
I didn't care, at least I have them." And there is one YouTube video, you probably watched the same one I did. It's kinda got a frame on it that looks like a TV set,
Yeah, yeah, it's like a 12-hour thing, I think.
but I think it's all of them, and it looks beautiful. It looks like
Mhm.
it's brand new print, so I'll take this stuff any way I can get it. I also am a huge fan of the Marvel superheroes, 1966, I think?
And you know what I like about it too is it to me, this is the way that the characters should look. Like, if you look at the subsequent animation, like the stuff that came maybe the late '70s, the '80s, and beyond, Spider-Man has a completely different look. The Avengers have a completely different look. The Hulk has a different look. I mean, Iron Man evolved over the years, we know that, but I like how authentic that they were because, like you said, they came right off the comic book. These are the Jack Kirby drawings, and they're so authentic. That's what I like about it.
Me too. I remember reading the comic book. They had a half-page ad, "Coming to your TV," and it showed the 5 of them flying towards you, and it listed my local TV station, and I was hopping around like a frog.
I'm sure you
I
were.
couldn't wait to see it. So what did they do in my area? Oh, they couldn't just show the series. We had an afternoon on Channel 10, WTEN from Albany. We had a show called Commander Ralph's Cartoon Frolic or something, and
Right, right.
it was a host. He had a host.
Sure.
It was the area weatherman dressed like a sea captain,
Yeah.
kinda like the Joe Flaherty of his time as Count Floyd, right?
Right, right.
And he would introduce the Marvel thing that, like, they chopped them up and didn't show us the original theme song or the ending credits at all. They just showed the
Mhm.
cartoons within the midst of the Commander Ralph show, which
Yeah.
I thought was a bum deal even in the day. But, I loved them. I never missed them. They were only really done for 1 season, I think. I don't think, but there were so many of them that they produced that they could keep rerunning the show. It kept on in reruns for decades,
Yeah. Yeah.
and around the globe too, but now they've kind of evaporated. I still recommend people check them out if you can find them. Like Steve said, the YouTube long form video that they put together is well worth checking out because the quality of the video is so good. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, it was very high quality and it really gives you that 1960s feel. It was just again, Marvel Comics itself started around 1962, so you're really getting in on, Stan Lee in his prime, the early years when all these great characters had just been created, and all the characters are treated very seriously. It's not like there's no laugh track, there's no comedy. It's just very authentic to the comic books.
But you know who you can thank for that? This series? Batman. The Batman
Right.
series on ABC. Because
Mhm.
when that thing took off, how TV is, they all play follow the leader, and they started creating more superhero series, more superhero
Right.
cartoons, and then all exploded, and superheroes were a big part of animation from that point, probably for
True.
another 15 years, I'd say.
True.
So, yeah, thank Batman for that. What do you think of the Batman series with Adam West? And
I know you're not the biggest fan, but I think it's just great. I think it's great on on that dual level of you can watch it as a comedy and think it's hilarious. You can watch it as a straight action adventure and enjoy it. And for kids, they loved it. It was and the Batcave is magnificent. I mean, that's so legitimate. And the great actors, the great guest stars they had. I mean, you could never have a better Catwoman than Julie Newmar. You could never have a better Joker than Cesar Romero or a better Penguin than Burgess Meredith. So there you go.
I will say this. I watched it when I was a kid and loved it. And don't get me wrong. I watched it when it was new. I never missed. Oh, and Batman was just the thing. Every store I went into, there were Batman toys and
Yeah,
Batman trading cards like baseball cards. And
everything.
no, Batman was a cultural phenomenon. But I insist to you, if the show was really as great as we remember it as being, it would have had some legs. It didn't have legs. It started to fade halfway through the first season. What did it last? 3 years at best?
Oh, like about 2+ years.
And then the Batgirl character and, just they kinda beat it into the ground.
But again, I mean, like you said, at the height of its popularity, it ran twice a week. So you had
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the beginning of your episode, and then come back later this week for the resolution,
yeah, yeah.
and that was cool. But I mean, and then we, in reruns, we didn't know about all that. You just saw it every day after school or whatever. But I mean, I think that's why the show burned out, because they were trying to produce a high quality of shows and do it really super quickly, and then they all probably got burned out.
It was so popular, they made a feature film,
Yeah, that's right.
and it was basically a long episode of the TV show, but that's all anybody wanted anyway, so
Yeah,
no, that Batman was a cultural phenomenon when it kinda like the Monkees, and here's why they both were, they were different. At least they were different. They were original, I'll give them credit for that, to come up with the concept of making a kitschy Batman when the real Batman character was kind of a tragic figure,
yeah,
really,
that's
when you
right.
really read the original Batman comic books. The Monkees were just, well, riding on the coattails of the Beatles, really. They made a made-for-TV Beatles series.
And there had never been a show about like younger people before, so I can see where the Monkeys became this phenomenon. Not that different than Friends. When Friends came out in the late '90s, it was like, oh my God, young people living in New York, we have to watch this. So there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Do you ever find yourself doing things like I do? Like, on occasion, we have a comic book store about 15 miles from here where I live.
Hmm.
Every so often, I'll bop in and buy one of those Silver Age reprint books
Right.
so I can reread stuff I read when I was 9, 7.
Yeah.
I love that. The fact that this stuff still exists makes me very, very happy.
We have a Costco across the street from where I live, and usually at Christmas time they bring out this one section of books to sell the books, and they did have like this large, like you say, compilation of old comics, but in a bounded, nice quality edition. I wouldn't mind getting something like that for the original Avengers issues if I could get it, and I would like it in color. I don't want it in black and white. But
Yeah.
I know those books do exist, and some of them are like $100 each or more. But yeah, I could definitely see myself going down that rabbit hole and trying to explore some of those great classics from the past.
Well, you know what else is cool too? Avail myself of Kindle, Amazon Kindle, a Kindle reader on my phone and tablets. And you can buy an old DC comic book from the '60s in a digital form for like $1.99.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have done that. I have a few of them in my Kindle library, as they call it. And every so often I'll look the old Mike Sekowsky art days of the Justice League of America. That was my favorite DC comic. Here's how I thought as a kid. You know why I loved the Justice League of America the most?
Why is that?
I thought you got more for your money because all the characters were in one book,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe I felt that way with the Avengers because they were all there, you
Yeah.
had a group of them.
Yeah, they were all there. Even though they had their own comics and they were doing other things in real time. And like if you bought the January edition of the Avengers and Captain America, somehow they were both doing different things at the same time. You read them both, but nobody noticed.
Yeah, I was thinking about this whole comic book thing from our past, our youth. Don't you think like the old comics were not that different than soap operas or even like wrestling angles? It's just like they just kept the thing going. Let's keep add a tweak here or a tweak there, but Like the issues were not like you read them and an issue gets resolved within the book. It was more like a continuing adventure that would go on from book to book to book.
True, but I think Marvel invented that because the
Okay.
DC, if you go back to Batman and Superman
Yeah.
editions,
Yeah.
sometimes you'd have 2 complete stories in the same one, and they did have a resolution. It's like they beat up the monster or they defeated the criminal, and that was it. At the end, they
Yeah.
were all smiling as, Batman shaking hands with Commissioner Gordon. "Oh, you've done it again," and that was it.
See, I was a big Marvel guy.
Marvel
I never got
yeah.
into DC. I
Well,
never
there you
really
go.
got into
Marvel was different. Marvel was, the continuing angst of Peter Parker,
Right.
the torment of Bruce Banner, and
Yeah.
that led to a storyline that resided in the underground of every single story they did. It
Yeah.
wasn't just the fight that happened of defeating the villain. It was the fact that, Peter Parker was kind of loved being Spider-Man, but hated it at the same time. There was all
Yeah.
kinds of things. His troubles with Mary Jane Parker, it just
Yeah.
go down the list. But you make a good point. But if you go back to the 60s, actually Marvel changed everything. Marvel changed because DC emulated Marvel after a while and had more angsty
Sure.
characters and things like
Right.
that. But yeah, Marvel, that's why Stan Lee is always looked upon as a legend because he was the guy that introduced, human emotion into these characters.
Yeah, poor Reed Richards, he, had a lot of angst about his marriage failing.
That too, and then when the baby came around, oh, yeah, I remember those. Sure. Yeah. I remember Stan Lee was a guest on the Dick Cavett show, and he mentioned that Sue Storm was pregnant, and the audience laughed because they weren't used to hearing stuff like that about a comic
Right.
character.
Right.
It was usually "Oh, there's the back signal. Let's go, Robin."
Mhm.
And then at the end, you see you see a lasso around the villains. "We got him
Right.
again, Commissioner Gordon. Nice job, Batman." At the end, you see the DC would just put this little circle at the end.
Mhm.
The end at
Right.
the bottom of the panel. Remember that?
Mhm.
Times were so much simpler then, my friend. And this is why I treasure your friendship, treasure the fact that you're an old timer like me, and we can look back at the stuff that made us really happy when we were young.
No, thanks for inviting me today. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but you took, me to a place of fondness. We got a little misty there a couple times, but, definitely some great memories of the animation we grew up with.
It's funny. Those are olden times and olden scenes in our heads that we can't replicate it in our older age. It's just all it is.
Yeah,
And it makes you feel sad, but it also makes you feel incredibly lucky that you had a good enough life to enjoy these things during the passage of time. So
very true.
let's look at it that way. We've been lucky. We got our health, we got our friends, and we have our classic cartoons and now at the press of a button, 75% of this stuff is available to look at anytime you want to. Couldn't say that when we were kids, right?
That's
Imagine,
right.
imagine you had to wait a week to see your favorite show.
That's right.
Now everybody binge watches the entire series in 2 days.
That's very true.
Yeah, well, we're so spoiled now. Gosh, Steve Gennarelli, tell people where they can find you in the podcast landscape. Not only is he a regular on a very popular podcast, but he's a frequent guest on shows like mine and many others. So, Steve, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm on the Stick to Wrestling with John McAdams show from Arcadian Vanguard every Friday. So listen to that if you can. I'm on with Bob on the Outdated Wrestling Hour and Outdated Entertainment Hour from time to time. And also on with Tony Richards on the Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel once in every blue moon. So that's where you can find me. And I really appreciate the invite, Bob. It's always good to not only get caught up with you, but to look back on some fond memories from entertainment from the past.
Well, I do want to mention, too, that if you enjoy Steve, check out the Outdated Wrestling Hour between the months of June and July, because he's going to be on like virtually every other week. Because as we tape this episode, I am about 2 weeks away from surgery that's going to knock me off my feet for an undetermined amount of time. So Steve was gracious enough to come to me and say, let's do some shows. Really? Yeah. So we just sat down and just the two of us put together some really good shows with really great topics. So if you're into pro wrestling, check those out because they're good. They're really good. I can't wait to unleash some of these on you. And Steve, the first one we did together has been in a can for like 3 months now. Do you know that? But
Yeah.
I'm actually going to put a disclaimer at the beginning of these shows when I release them. It's going to say, if we talk about anything that was current then and isn't now, please forgive us because these are shows that we put together several weeks ago because I had to do it. I don't want to miss. Same way with the Outdated Entertainment Hour. I don't want to miss our schedule because we appreciate our listeners. We want to hold on to you guys.
We did have one episode where I was going on about how great the great Mephisto was, and he passed away like about 2 or 3 weeks after that, or maybe even a week after. But yeah, these episodes are going to be a lot of fun. Really deep dives into the past of wrestling, and I hope our listeners enjoy them.
There you go. And we have some more concepts coming on the Outdated Entertainment Hour, too. Steve, always a blast, my friend. Good to see you. Happy Saturday. You going to go watch some cartoons now or what?
Actually, my wife and I are going to go out for a nice lunch, but I hear that you're going to City Field, so I wish you luck. I hope Bo Bichette hits some dingers for you, and I hope the Mets win.
I'm going to see Bobby Valentine.
That's cool.
Bobby Valentine, as we speak, Bobby Valentine is about to be inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame. So I got to go put my blue cap on. Count to about 15. We will be right back. Attention, Gen Xers. If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. The generation who grew up with elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today. Well, that's it for another edition of the Outdated Entertainment Hour. We really hope you enjoyed us here, and you'll come back and listen to future episodes. And if you want, go back to outdatedentertainment.buzzsprout.com or type in Outdated Entertainment Bob Smith on any browser. You can listen to all of our old shows at the press of a button. I don't Patreon those, at least not at the moment anyway. But you can go back and listen to everything we've ever done. We have all kinds of things. We have an interview with a recent brand new member of the Guess Who is on tour right now. There's movies, there's books, there's television, music. Go back, see what you can enjoy. Comic books, all sorts of things. Superheroes, you name it. We're looking at old-time entertainment, just like we did tonight. Write to us, outdatedent, that's outdatedent@gmail.com. Both the Outdated Entertainment Hour and the Outdated Wrestling Hour are productions of Bob Smith podcasts. One thing I got to go over with you guys, as I put this show to bed, it's going to be kind of a hairy 2-3 weeks for me because I am going to be out of commission for a while, health-wise. Nothing to worry about. Do not waste your time sending me get well messages. I'm fine, okay? It's just an old health matter I have to attend to through surgery, and I hope to be back on my feet as soon as possible. I don't know when our next entertainment hour is going to drop, but I will announce it on social media to let you all know what it is. I'm hoping that, we've been monthly for now, the last few months. Once I am 100% healed, we are going to go to bi-weekly again as we did for a long time. It's about time we did it because the show's doing too well. And I want more and more people to hear it. So the Outdated Entertainment Hour will soon be bi-weekly, but we may have one hiatus week or I may do a best of or something like that. So I do not intend for us to miss any episodes. And at the same token, you're going to get more episodes in the future. Find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith that sings with B.B. King. I'm on every other social media app that you can think of, X and Blue Sky and Threads, and you name them, I'm there. Instagram. We usually put out ads on all of those social media platforms. That's it for now. We hope you had a good time. I love cartoons. I will never stop watching cartoons. If I got the blues, I will tune into the Friendly Network and find myself some MeTV tunes or something, or any of the other things, Roku and things like that. And I will see some classic animation from the past, and it always makes me feel better. If you're like me, well, this show was for you tonight. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you soon. And in the words of Ringo Starr, one of my idols, and he still says it to this day, since way back in the 60s too. Peace and love, brothers and sisters. Peace and love.